time. Something has got to happen because we can no longer go down the path that we're going down. This country won't last another 6 months. This country won't last another 12 months if something doesn't happen. So it's time to flip the switch. It's time to get involved. It's time to move the line forward. And if you're not part of the solution, then you're part of the problem. So I don't care what flip the switch is. I don't care if that means that all of this nonsense is nonsense, or if some of it's true. All right. Good evening, everybody. I hope you can hear me tonight. I've been having technical difficulties today, to say the least. Well, today's Monday, start of the week, and it is the last day of February 28th, 2022. Tomorrow is March 1st, if you can imagine that. It's going by really quick. So we've already got 2 months in the old bag, and we've got 10 to go, and we actually have 9 to go before midterms. So don't forget about that, folks. It's 9 months out before the midterms. And I know a lot of you feel like just giving up, but we can't give up. We got to keep moving this line forward. We got to continue to make a difference. So that's what we're doing here tonight. We've got a special guest with us, Mountain Man, and just pretty excited about getting an opportunity to let him talk. We had a great, it started off on Podbean. Hello America, that's Red Step Stacker. And we started off on Podbean this afternoon, but I couldn't figure out why I didn't have sound. So we hopped over on YouTube and finished it off. So a great conversation with Red as usual. And I think Red actually brought Mountain Man to us. So it's pretty exciting to share this space with him tonight. Just going to have a good time, kind of relax and allow him to just put his information out, and I'll have some questions for him, and we'll see where it goes. So welcome to the show. If you guys are here for the very first time, welcome to LWN on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. We're also on Podbean at LWN Podcast, so check us out there. All right, let's bring in our special guest. This is Mountain Man. How you doing this evening, Mountain Man?
I'm doing fine, Mike. How are you doing? I hope you hear me okay.
We can hear you. We can hear you loud and clear. We're broadcasting from Beaver, Oklahoma. We're here at Shane Phelps's house, Captain Finger. He's doing a little bit better this afternoon. We had Rogue come all the way down from Kansas. So you guys know him as Rogue Wonky or Bruce. He came down from Kansas this afternoon and spent a little bit of time with Shane and I think him and Shane hit it off real well. They had a lot to talk about. So I know he's listening right now. So thanks for coming down, Rogue. Really appreciated getting an opportunity to meet you, sir. Great patriot, great brother. So yeah, it's been a pretty exciting day. It's winding down. Now we're doing the big show, and we're ready to flip the switch.
All right. I just want to ask you something real quick. I only go on what I hear and bits and pieces. I haven't been able to watch all the videos, but I wanted to ask you, why did you make Red pee his pants?
I don't know if I made him pee his pants, but
I don't want to pee mine. I don't want to pee mine.
I don't believe he peed his pants on my show. I believe he peed his pants at a rally or something, but he may have peed his pants this afternoon. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I hope he didn't. Hope he didn't.
I saw that in the title of your all's last video, and I said, I don't know if I want to go on. I don't know. But anyway, I've already taken care of that, so I should be all right, unless you really scare me. But I'm hard.
There's no scaring here. The only people that I guess the politicians need to be afraid of is we the people.
You better believe it.
They better be afraid because we're here to take the country back.
Well, yeah, that's the truth, and we're not the only ones. I tell you, Mr. T has said in the past, we have to make sure this never happens again.
Amen.
And I don't think that message was just for Americans, because as we can see, things are a broken record in other countries as far as certain power structures getting in and maintaining their power no matter what. The same system, the same way, the same media, everything. So we're not the only ones who need to learn from this and make sure it never happens again. With the Ukraine situation, I tell you, everybody was surprised. Of course, when they first did the invasion, it was a situation where unless you worked night shift, you woke up in the morning and found out Putin had invaded Ukraine. And that was, I will say from my end, a surprise. Were you surprised?
I kind of seen it coming for quite a while, and I've done several reports on it. So I wasn't totally shocked, but, even when it happens, it's definitely a little concerning. So when I woke up that next morning and heard that they had crossed into the border, I was alarmed for sure.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you've been listening to the reports that we're supposed to rely on, that Putin is depressed, he's mentally deranged, he's separated from reality, he has no friends, he doesn't go on the internet, his people are turning against him in the government. Doesn't that sound familiar?
Yeah, it does. It sounds very familiar. Like we've heard this story before, right?
Yeah, that's the kind of reports I was hearing today, and it almost verbatim the things they were saying about Mr. T.
Yep. Kind of sounds like they use the same playbook, right?
Exactly. So, as I said, we're not the only ones who need to learn a lesson, and not the only ones who need to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Mhm.
Um, the the reports coming in of 80-year-old women picking up firearms. I ran across some videos that showed, even on Fox News, they had soldiers up against the wall holding, peeking around the corner, holding rifles. You take a close look at the rifle, and they're cut out cardboard rifles. You heard stories about, yeah, you heard stories about the ghost of Ukraine.
Ghost of Ukraine, and so let me jump in for just a second here
Sure.
because Shane and I spent some time yesterday looking at some stuff, what you're talking about. And it's funny because after Shane and I kind of checked it out, my Facebook went mad with the propaganda being put all over Facebook. And one of them was a supermodel from the Ukraine. She got crowned. I think it was in 2015. They said that she dropped her crown and picked up a gun to fight the Russians. If you dive deep into that, you'll find out that she actually was modeling for airsoft equipment, and that's where they pulled that photo out of. Is airsoft, and I know airsoft very well. I've played it lots of times. I've got many weapons, and all of my weapons are the actual weight size to all of the real guns, and they shoot little plastic BBs, and so that was one thing that Shane and I were looking at, and the second thing we were looking at was the president of the Ukraine actually being in the trenches fighting, and we found that that photo was taken from a trip that he made in like 2016. So
Right.
lots of old photos and lots of propaganda thrown out there. And then you talk about the ghost, and this is a pilot that was he was outmanned by what was it, five other jets, five other fighters, and he
Right.
supposedly knocked them all out of the sky. I don't know. I just found it very odd that
Well, in modern warfare, there are very few jet to jet combat kills. Very few. I don't know when the last one we recorded was, but that is describing something from World War One and World War II days, when you had 200 mile an hour in World War II, maybe 230 miles an hour average speed. And back in World War One, it was like 120, maybe, if you're going down in a dive. But so you had more of that one-on-one combat. So by today's standards, for that to have been achieved is just wholly unbelievable. Not to say that any Russian planes hadn't been shot down, but one thing that's telling is that they haven't discussed, which the Russian military put out their first official um, video showing combat operations, and a lot of them had their version of an Apache helicopter, a strike helicopter it looks quite a bit larger than an Apache, and it does some damage. I can tell you that. And you
yep,
don't hear people anything about that. So the thing that is being projected to the American people is that Putin is on the edge. He's made a huge mistake. He's, just ready to crack
mhm,
emotionally. They're questioning his mental fitness, and
yep,
the the troops are in disarray. They're ready to just hang it up and go home to their mothers. Well, they don't know what Spetsnaz is. They don't know what Special Forces is with Russia, and it's the they call it Kiev now. Tamata, Kiev, whatever they're changing the name to, it's basically surrounded. And Putin said from the very beginning, the very day this operation started, he put out a statement that he wanted to pretty much get rid of the criminals in the government. That was his statement, not me. I'm not taking his side. I'm saying what he said. He wanted to denazify and demilitarize the Ukrainian government. And they have, by all measures, they have been, as I said in a conversation with Red, they've been very measured in their approach. They had video of, I found was ironic. They had video of protesters in Germany at Brandenburg Gate.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can, the Battle of Berlin lasted 2.5, almost 3 weeks. And that was with Zhukov's army. I mean, those were major armies coming from all directions into Berlin. And it lasted, this conflict, we're into the 5th day. This is the 5th day. And they're already saying Putin has failed and he's got to leave. Well, he's been securing and making incursions into the town and making proclamations about his intentions. His targets are what he feels are corrupt elements in the government, not a all-out attack like happened in Berlin during the Battle of Berlin. Now you look up photos of that, and the first thing you'll see is Brandenburg Gate. It's still standing, but everything around it is in ruins. And that's not happening now. There is no all-out full-scale assault on Kiev. And for them to put out this information in every way they put it out, they're killing civilians indiscriminately. On the other hand, they're crying and want to go home to their mothers. You know, which is it? They're saying all the people are huddled down in the bomb shelters in the subway, and I'm sure it's a scary experience. But on the other same report, they say if you show you have a gun, this pizzeria will give you a free pizza. They got a pizzeria in the bomb shelter. So there's things are not quite as they seem, and we all know that by reports. Things are not as they seem. We have to be discerning viewers. But you have people that gobble it right up, that believe every word, and they're the people we're having a hard time with. They're the people we've got to reach, and in a non-confrontational way with just facts and a photograph of people with cardboard guns, things of that nature, to try to get through to our fellow Americans, even though we disagree with them. Trump had 2 scoops of ice cream and they'll hate him for the rest of his life. No matter what, we still got to try to unify as many Americans as possible. That's the ultimate goal here. And situations like this are forcing the media to do what they do in an open and crass way, where people can't help but question. Look how quickly you got that information sent to you by other people about the model, about the ghost, all these other things. So we're much more in tune to realize that there's fake news. I know I'm going on and on. I'm just going to finish this little segment up here. They had one guy, CNN had a picture of, and it said his name was Bernie Gores, and they had a picture of him. It looked like he was on his back porch and he was smiling, close-up picture. And it said on the left, it had CNN logo on top, and it said Bernie Gores, we hate to say, hate to announce, has tragically lost his life to the Taliban in Afghanistan. We're praying for his family. And there's a picture of him smiling. Right next to it is the exact same picture, and then up above is the CNN avatar for the reporter. Bernie Gores, we're sad to say, lost his life in a Ukrainian missile strike. The same guy, 2
Yeah.
years apart.
Yeah,
So,
there's a lot of that crisis actor stuff going around.
yeah,
There's one lady that's been in the news where she got supposedly beat up by Russian soldiers, but she's been in the news multiple times over the years. You know,
well,
I'll have to admit, it's hard to know what to believe and what not to believe in any of these situations. I believe that there are people in the Ukraine that are under stress. They're scared to death. Some of them, probably a lot of them, probably do not know what's going on.
right.
So I don't discount that. I don't discount shots being fired or even things maybe even blowing up here or there. But I don't know if I quite believe that's a full scale attack by Russia. I really don't. I even heard that there's video of Russian soldiers crossing the Ukraine border being met by Ukrainian soldiers, and they're shaking hands. So what is real and what isn't real. It's definitely something that we're looking into.
Well, it by the treatment that we have already seen in past experiences, everything that comes across that tube, any rational person would have a question mark about, except for people who have never looked beyond, have always trusted the news and feel that people that are telling them things counter to what they trust, that there's something wrong with the people trying to tell them. And I don't know what percentage of people that is, but it's a significant enough percent, and it's causing rifts in relationships, families, friendships, that really don't need to be there. That's why there's laws against knowingly, and that's the key word, knowingly putting up false information. Uh,
Mhm.
that is formally known as propaganda, and it is unlawful. It's a federal offense. So, and that's why it harms the society as a whole. It causes rifts in our fabric of our society and our culture. So this is it's going to get to the point, like before I came here, the last news report I saw was from Fox, and I I dropped my jaw. I couldn't believe they were saying that Putin was insane or close to being insane, that he was committing crimes against that he would be tried to Hague, and that day is coming. Uh,
Mhm.
Now, very
Didn't
much
they
going.
didn't they say the same thing about Trump?
Well, that's the thing. If you look at the things they're saying about Putin, I'm sure somebody could pull up enough uh, information to show that they're reading from the same playbook. Operation, you know what,
Hmm.
Mockingbird. Um,
Hmm.
that's been verified back in the 50s, and it's in full swing, and it's starting to show itself. It's starting to show itself. They're getting to a ridiculous state, as we can see now. The problem is the people who haven't seen or accepted the past ridiculous statements and ridiculous stories. They 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 are having a harder time. But we're getting to the point where it's almost laughable. It's almost laughable if it wasn't so tragic.
Yeah, let me jump in here real quick because Jeff B, I had him on this last week, and he made a really good point
Yeah,
from what he's watching. And now Jeffrey West put this up, and it says if it was a full on attack by Russia, the Ukrainians wouldn't still have electricity or internet. Nothing is as it seems. Now, I'm not a military guy. I don't pretend to be one. I don't know much about strategic military anything, to be honest with you. Um, I just I just use common sense, and if I was going to take a capital or if I was going to take a country, I think that would be a very important tool to use is to take out power grids and internet and
yeah.
make the entire country, at least the capital, go completely black instead of having internet and the lights on and people are walking around like nothing's going on. It really seems strange to me, but I'm cautious on both sides because even the other side can put out propaganda to make it seem like it's something it's not. So right now,
Well,
I'm just taking it all in and waiting to see how the cards fall because I think that we'll start knowing the truth here real soon.
Putin is giving them right now as far as the scale of war. There's still ongoing operations, and they may ramp it up tonight. I don't know, but as for right now, they're giving them a respite. It's true that Jeff B is right. Now, in the laws of war, you cannot cause unnecessary civilian suffering or loss of life. That's against the law to do that. Now, people have to understand when these things were written, especially in the European theater and Ukraine, very few people even had electric back then, much less internet. So and up until this time in the early 1900s, from there backwards, there's no such thing as electricity. Mm-hmm. And people got along. I mean, if they had water to drink and food to eat, you light a candle when it gets dark if you got one. Okay. And losing your Instagram does not constitute unnecessary suffering. Of course, some teenagers might say it does, but not loss of power, and loss of computer things are not considered undue suffering.
I might have to disagree just a little bit on that, Mountain Man, and the reason why is I see Lori in the chat and a few other individuals in chat that if they had to lose internet and lose LWN for any length of time, they kind of go through withdrawals a little bit, and I love that about them. They're always so many great supporters, so many great people watching us that they might lose their minds. But the guest is there's questions on who the guest is because without video we can't see your name. So this is Mountain Man. He reached out to us. Denise reached out to him, made the connection through Red Step Stacker. You guys can check Red out too. He's got a great channel over there. But I've listened to a couple of things that Mountain Man's been putting out, and he's been on with Red Stack. And I just thought it'd be really neat to have him come on and talk about this stuff. So thanks for your insight.
Well, I can tell you when a couple of days ago, what the Raggedy Ann, it's a nickname for Jen Psaki and
Peppermint Patty. She likes Peppermint Patty. She told Ted Cruz she actually likes the nickname Peppermint Patty to keep calling her that.
Okay. Now, what do you call the big guy? Diapers?
We have all kinds of names for that guy. You pick one and we'll just run with it.
Well, I tell you, as little coverage as there for them to say that Putin is having a mental breakdown or loss of any mental function.
That's a lie.
After we watched Biden lost his bowels in front of the Pope. Who in the world's ever done that?
Yeah,
and
no kidding.
That was confirmed by Italian media. It was the talk of the town. And later on, he made eyebrows go up at a royal cocktail party, I guess from the aftershocks. And Trump brought that up. He brought up, he said, I know it's true. He had to change his pants. Trump said that publicly. So everybody can see Biden up there bumbling, forgetting what he's saying and acting bizarre. I would not be surprised that if he does something really outrageous, as people who are descending into that type of illness do from time to time. But they have never said anything about it in the regular media. Never.
No, nothing. You are 100% correct. They have not said one word about this guy. Fox is the only one. Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson are the only two. Laura Ingraham throwing it out there that he's got dementia or possibly has dementia or shell of a man. I mean, it's funny how we've gone 14 months with this guy and nothing has been said about him, but now they're claiming that Putin is insane and losing it and breaking down. Putin knows exactly what he's doing, and Putin is like Trump. He's very smart. He has a plan, and we're about to see what that is.
Well, I tell you, Trump and Putin met in Helsinki in 2016. I mean 2018, and it was their first meeting. And because, and as the saying was at the time, like people like Hannity, who have already been villainized, Tucker Carlson, all anyone in that clique has already been in the minds of the people we need to reach, have already been vilified or made fun of in some way. But they pointed out, what did they expect Trump to do with Putin? Punch him in the face over their claims of interference back in the 16 election. So, what is part of Putin's motivation and his? No one has ever. Have you heard a quote from Putin on any of the regular news? Heard his voice through an interpreter, or have him say what his country's stance is? Have you heard him say? Anyone allow him to give his message? Of course
No,
not.
and I don't pay attention to those lying bastards anyway. So,
Well, the thing, Putin has never spoken for himself. But I tell you,
yeah.
if you'd like, I like to play about a 3-minute clip, and you have to kind of pay attention to it. And if you don't get it all, I'll comment on it. If you got questions about it when I'm through playing it. What it is Trump and Putin side by side, separated a little bit, kind of like debate style, not that far apart, but at their own podiums, giving a press conference in Helsinki to the world. And it was much anticipated after all the accusations that have been made against Trump about Putin. And it was during the height of the Mueller time investigation. There's still people, that say that. So, needless to say, all eyes were on that. And I'm going to play you just a 3-minute clip if you want to listen. If you listen to it, it will give you some insight into the how we got to where we're at right now. One of the reasons we got to where we're at in Ukraine. Okay.
Yep.
Are you ready?
Let's give her a try.
Okay.
Putin at this point had explained that there was an existing treaty between Russia and the United States to investigate crimes committed in one another's country dating from 1999. And that there also had been a number of cases already mutually worked on between the two countries over the years. He further expressed his willingness to work with Mueller and the special counsel concerning any crimes that may have been committed. Permit the special representatives of the United States, including the members of this very commission headed by Mr. Mueller, we can let them into the country and they will be present for this questioning. But in this case, there's another condition. This kind of effort should be a mutual one. And then we would expect that the Americans would reciprocate and they would question officials, including the officers of law enforcement and intelligence services of the United States, whom we believe who have something to do with illegal actions on the territory of Russia. And we have to request the presence of our law enforcement. For instance, we can bring up Mr. Browder in this particular case. Business associates of Mr. Browder have earned over $1.5 billion in Russia. They never paid any taxes, neither in Russia nor in the United States. And yet the money escaped the country. They were transferred to the United States. They sent a huge amount of money, 400 million, as a contribution to the campaign of Hillary Clinton. Well, that's their personal case. It might have been legal, the contribution itself, but the way the money was earned was illegal. So we have a solid reason to believe that some intelligence officers accompanied and guided these transactions. So we have an interest of questioning them. That could be a first step, and we can also extend it. Options abound, and they all can be found in an appropriate legal framework.
And did you direct any of your officials to help him do that?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Because he talked about bringing the U.S.-Russia relationship back to normal. There was disclosed before the world that hundreds of millions were donated to HRC's campaign. Millions of dollars were taken out of Russia illegally by intelligence officials under the Obama administration in violation of Russian law, and no taxes were paid in either country. This is our news agencies and our intelligence agencies' treatment of that type of information the American people and the world needed to know.
He landed at night, and he won't have been happy with the verdict on his summit with President Putin if he woke up in time to watch his favorite morning show, Fox and Friends. You're standing next to Vladimir Putin, whose ultimate goal in life is to undermine our democracy. So it was that one moment that you had to stand up for your own country, to stand up for your intelligence community. And as we've said this morning, he did not do that. Unprecedented criticism from the channel that loved him.
Nobody's perfect, especially in 10 intense days of summits, private meetings, and everything on his plate. But that moment is the one that's going to stand out unless he comes out and corrects it.
On the opposite channel, a former CIA chief was more brutal.
But what Mr. Trump did yesterday was to betray the women and men of the FBI, the CIA, NSA, and others, and to betray the American public. And that's why I use the term that this was nothing short of treasonous, because it is a betrayal of the nation. He is giving aid and comfort to the enemy, and it needs to stop.
So, I don't know how much of that you picked up.
Well, I heard the whole thing. It was loud and clear.
$400 million.
Yep.
And they buried. Do you even remember that?
About the Clintons?
A fair question to the viewers and the people in chat. Do you remember Putin making that disclosure that there was a treaty, and there is a treaty with Russia, that America would cooperate with Russia and Russia would cooperate with America to prosecute criminal activity that occurs on each one another's soil? And he brought up, well, this is a pretty big deal. These were intelligence agents working for the United States government that broke the law and took that money.
Mm-hmm.
And they broke Russian law, and it was not declared. It was not anything done as far as the HRC campaign. You're supposed to tell anything over $6,000. How about $400 million?
Mm-hmm.
So
actually, I think it's anything over 600, isn't it?
Well, that's just for people like poor slobs like you and me.
Oh,
that
like
earn
you
over.
and me, but
Yeah.
the rest of them get 10 times that. All right,
Sure.
Sounds about fair.
Yeah. So, how many people remember that? And I don't think there will be very many, because before his plane hit the ground, Donald Trump was excoriated over and over. And that intelligence official at the end was John Brennan.
Mm-hmm.
That said he needs to stop. He's committing treason. And Trump didn't say a word. That was straight from the mouth of Vladimir Putin. So that's what we're up against. And Putin knows that the big guy withheld almost $1 billion to get that prosecutor fired in Ukraine illegally to prevent a criminal investigation into the big guy's son.
Correct.
And Putin knows that. Poroshenko is the former president who is corrupt to the bone. Now, he was shown on news agencies saying, we're going to stand and we're going to fight. And I don't know if you saw that clip of the guy behind him. Speaking of clips, his clip falls out of his rifle while he's standing behind Poroshenko talking.
I saw that. I saw that video.
So that's who Putin is after. That character, Poroshenko, because they did fire the prosecutor. And the thing about it is, one thing not a lot of Americans know is that foreign aid, there's no way to account for it. You put almost $1 billion into Ukraine, we don't get a book of receipts back. But
love that word, receipts.
Well, Rudy G had actually gone to Ukraine and met with this prosecutor who was fired. And as I've said before, he's an elderly gentleman. He's very distinguished. He has a distinguished record, but they automatically vilified him in the media. They accused him of being corrupt, and he said that he had threats on his life. You know, you can get Arkancided in Ukraine, apparently. So Rudy G traced actual cash through Luxembourg. If you look at a map, you'll see how that money traveled. If you ever listen to, and you probably won't be able to listen to him again because everything is taken down. So, but the bottom line is they found tens of millions of dollars that got right into some very big names' personal bank accounts from this aid to Ukraine. So foreign aid cannot be traced, they think, but it is not required to be accounted for. That's the key. That's the key. Yeah. And what was the first thing the day we found out about the invasion? Biden put a bill forward that wanted $6.4 billion going to Ukraine right now.
Yeah, more money. Just, you know, we have so much extra money, you know, with inflation out of control here in America. We should probably send more aid to other countries instead of worrying about ourselves. What are your thoughts on this? Jeff B threw this up here. So we and Europe put sanctions on Russia, but we still buy their oil and gas. I mean, I know the answer to that, but what's your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are Germany's talking big. They're going to do this and they're going to do that. Well, I tell you, when you get 70% of your gas from Russia, you're going to do something to them and think nothing's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
That's a ridiculous thing right there that the news doesn't even bring up. And what part of the problem, not only this corruption we're talking about here, that about the press conference, that was about gas companies and the big guy's son being on the board of gas companies. Now we know Nancy P., her son is on a board. Mitt, M-I-T-T, Romney from Utah, senator, his son is on the board. We're finding out more and more that this country is a hub of corruption, especially concerning utilities. And prior to that tape I made, and I encourage people to go look it up because the CNN has it up, Sky News Australia has it up. You can listen to that entire press conference yourself, and I encourage you to listen to what Putin is saying. This was 3 years ago, or 4 years ago almost. And he said, we're in complete agreement that there needs to be a reliable flow of fuel through the Ukraine, and that shortages benefit no one, no citizens of any country. And we want to keep that going. And I liken it to because they have to take it from Russia through Ukraine to the rest of Europe, Western Europe.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they send a 500-pound cow through Ukraine to give it to Germany. And by the time it gets out of Ukraine, it's bones and hair and weighing probably about 80 pounds, So that's the best way to put it. And I tell you, the thing that is really infuriating about the invasion, that I made notes about what was going on and what was being reported, so I could compare that to my eyeballs and my ears. Well, the first thing that happened was Putin recognized the two breakaway regions in the east that border Russia. He recognized their independence. He didn't go in there and take those two provinces over. He recognized their independence formally, that they're independent nations in the eyes of Russia. Well, a couple of days went by and there was a hubbub about that, but there was no fighting. There was nothing going on because those two provinces have divorced themselves from the main government in Kiev back in 2014. So these were semi-autonomous regions anyway, and Putin was saying, "Look, we're going to recognize their independence." A couple of days went by. There was some people clutching their pearls and guffawing and or whatever, and then all of a sudden, Putin makes this move. And one thing that he did, they didn't know what was the best way to report this. He went into Chernobyl. Chernobyl is located in Ukraine. A lot of people compare, when they think of Chernobyl, they automatically think of a Russian disaster. Mm-hmm. Well, it was a Soviet Union disaster. The Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore. And Chernobyl is located in Ukraine, which was part of the Soviet Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. So Putin had no control over Chernobyl anymore because it was in Ukraine. But people, as I say, they think Chernobyl's in Russia. No, it was in the Soviet Union. So all of a sudden he does the invasion, and one of his first targets is to go into Chernobyl. And people are saying, there was a guy on CNN who says he's a 20-year intelligence expert. And he puts up Chernobyl supplies Ukraine with over 50% of its power. And he made a public tweet saying that, something very akin to that. It might have the percentage off, but any fool knows Chernobyl was a nuclear disaster and has been entombed in concrete and is a no-go place. It is a defunct, destroyed nuclear reactor that was a terrible disaster. And this guy thinks it's still operable, and that's why Putin went in there. And then they realized, oh, well, that was a pretty stupid thing to say, but we got to make it look like Putin is doing something evil by going in Chernobyl. So they shut up about Chernobyl. But the bottom line is, my thoughts on the matter, that I wouldn't be surprised if somebody was trying to go into Chernobyl to cause a breach of the encasement around that facility, to blame Putin for some kind of nuclear activity or something, to draw the world into the conflict. And Putin went in there to secure Chernobyl to prevent that. You don't hear a word about it now. You don't hear a word. When the Russian government said, we have heightened to full alert our nuclear deterrence capability.
Yeah, he did say that. And now lamestream media is running with that, saying that they're going to fire off their nuclear capabilities at us or anybody who tries to interfere.
They scratched out the word deterrence and just say that Putin is upping his nuclear forces. He very clearly said.
And why are they doing that? They're doing that to cause fear. They're doing that to change the narrative. It's just like I've had the same thing done to me where I say something and they only get bits and pieces of it, and then they fit in their own words to make it sound like what they want it to sound like. And that's what lamestream media is doing, the exact same thing.
Well, that started back in Genesis when Eve said to the serpent, well, God said, if we touch the fruit of the tree of knowledge, that we shall die. And he said, no, he didn't. He said, you may die. Take, one word. That's all it takes. One word. So they took that word out. And now they're saying, will Putin push the red button?
Yep, that's what they're doing.
He didn't say a damn thing about that. And for all we know is he could have made the decision to invade to avert a terrible catastrophe by the black hats. Chernobyl site for starters. That would have been their start. And so why would he else would he send to Chernobyl to fill their canteens with drinking water? I mean, go in there, but they're going in there to secure it.
Yeah.
So that is the media's latest strategy, is to take a message to the world by the Russian government that we are putting our nuclear deterrence forces on high alert. Namely, we want to deter. They are flipping that around to saying we're got our foot on the red button. And that is a lie to a criminal degree. So if you're talking to a friend who's on the fence, you just say, be surprised that the main reason Putin went in there was to lock Chernobyl disaster site. That would surprise me, because somebody could have been in there messing with it. But there's no other reason for Putin to go in there. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
But to secure it. And he said he was upping his nuclear deterrence. I read the statement by the Russian, and then 2 days later, the news has it as he's going to bomb the world when he's doing the exact opposite. Now, those are things you can talk to somebody on a reasonable level about and be correct. That's the key, is being correct.
I don't disagree with you there, Mountain Man. It's like I said at the very beginning of the show, there's so much information that they toss around and swirl around us. It's definitely frustrating to try to keep track of everything and what makes the most sense. What's the truth, But the more days that go by, the more I start seeing some of this nonsense that here we are again. Lamestream media is spinning it. They're putting it out there. It's propaganda. Again, it's not that I don't think that people are fearing for their lives in the Ukraine. I believe they are. I believe there's probably some things going on that be very frightening and very concerning, very alarming. But I don't see where Russia has really just rushed in and took things over like I probably would have if I was in that position. It seems like they're being very cautious and strategic. Like there's something that they're looking for, and it's not just to take the country over.
Well, the second day, Putin himself was sitting at a table, and he said that he wants to meet with the Ukrainians. Now, this is way before anybody could say that the Russians are tripping over their own feet and This is when everybody was going, what in the world's he going to do? He was definitely had the upper hand, and they hadn't set their narrative yet. And he said, I want to meet with the Ukrainian government, and I wanted to discuss demilitarizing Ukraine and denazifying the government. And I will meet them in Minsk, which is the capital of Belarus.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh, no, we don't want to meet in Minsk. Well, Turkey, a lot of people might not, when Trump was taking out of the Syrian conflict zone where the Kurds were, and CNN put old video of bombing in a training base at night. They put up that footage, that same footage from years ago, and claimed that the Syrians were bombing the Kurds' children and grandchildren and the unborn, everything they could think, and puppies, everything they could think. And Trump came out the next day in press conferences. That was a misleading video. That video was total, and you ought to be ashamed of yourselves. You're correct. Apologize for it. But at that same time, Turkey shot down a Russian jet that was provably in airspace it was allowed to be in, but the Turks shot it down and claimed they were over Turkish airspace. And Putin was going to respond. And after he talked with Trump on the phone, after he talked with Assad and everything like that, he said, basically, not a quote, you shot that plane down, don't do it again. Try it again, see what happens. He let it go. But that's where he left things off with Turkey. And Trump told Turkey, Erdogan, he said, listen, he wants to play around. I destroyed his economy once, and I'll do it again. So whatever he's doing, he needs to stop, because I will destroy his economy again. And then Turkey settled down. So there was no way that Russia was going to go into Turkey to meet with a bunch of, as Putin put it, a bunch of drug addicts and criminals. Told the first day he told to the Ukrainian people, he said, why support a bunch of drug addicts and criminals? And to the military, he said, go home to your families and do not defend a military junta. And that's what he said way before anybody geared up the narrative and the propaganda. So he has said publicly to the people, to the Ukrainian military world, that his objective was to remove a criminal element from that Ukrainian government that still exists there after the crimes that were committed under the big guy and the foreign aid being stripped and stolen and taken from the Ukrainian people, after all the money being taken from these utility companies. And as I said, these people in Ukraine make pennies compared to us in America. And when you can't keep your house warm, and when you've got trouble paying your bills, and your kids are freezing in the winter, and you know somebody's son is getting $90,000 or however much it is a month, and all they got to do is count the money, and they're on the other side of the world, you're going to be a little upset. So there's a lot of people in Ukraine that know the deal. The ones that are in support, the ones running around saying, I got guns and I'll stay. Well, don't you think they don't get paid in some way, either through a government position that they like, some form of payment for supporting these crooks? I mean, you can go to D.C. As far as them saying that all of the Ukrainian people are willing to die and willing to fight, well, I'll tell you what. If there's somebody coming in our country and they said, hey, you want to go take this gun and fight to the death to keep Nancy P. and Adam S. from getting drug out, I'd say, no, I'll pass.
No, I'd probably join the group removing them. That's for sure.
Well, that's basically what we're looking at.
Yep.
So if they say there's such stiff resistance from the population, Ukraine has got around 50 million people living there. You've already got the capital of Canada. You got Ottawa surrounded by fences to protect them from their own people. You've already got D.C. been fences around it. You know, what if that happens around the administrative buildings in Kiev? I mean, you've got 50-some million people, and they're all supposedly going bonkers, wanting to save who? Poroshenko? Who wanted to save that prosecutor that unlawfully dropped the charges against those criminals in the gas industry? Everybody's willing to die for them? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. And if there was such a huge uprising, there may be, as Molotov cocktails, all this stuff, people with guns, that may be the case with the bureaucratic class. The ones who directly benefit for being flunkies for a corrupt government. And we see it in our own nation. The guy that comes to your community and the first thing he does, because he's retired from some obscure job in the Justice Department, and his wife is retired from some obscure job at the EPA, and they both together get in retirement benefits close to $250,000 or nearly $500,000 every single year for sitting on their duffs, and because they're retired at the age of 50, and they move to an area that's waterfront usually, and the first thing this ex-bureaucrat does is get on your school board or get on your board of supervisors in your little town somewhere. And that's the way it's been going across this country in strong force since the 1990s. And if people look back and think, you used to go to your DMV, it was a kind of a humble little building. You used to go to your town hall. Okay, it's your town hall. You know, you went in to a board of supervisors meeting. They were sitting at a cafeteria table, lined up 4, 5, 6 of them, and you guys were at the other cafeteria tables, and you talked about issues. And nobody wore a suit and tie. But that was in the early 90s, and back. Now you go there, that building doesn't exist anymore because they gave federal money. If you don't use it, you lose it, was the big saying in the 90s. If you don't use it, you lose it. Mainly, they take this money and they build a temple to themselves in little towns, little hamlets, little counties, and all of a sudden that board of supervisors and that school board has got a temple with the state-of-the-art air conditioning, lighting, 10 or 12-foot ceilings, and they're sitting
bulletproof glass. Don't forget that.
they're sitting elevated above you, looking down. They're all wearing suits and ties, and the people that are on the board, your local board of supervisors, your school district, on your school board, you don't have any idea who they are or where they're from. And believe me, the culture they come from, the culture they represent of government bureaucracy, the us and the them, the beautiful people and the peons, there they are. And they change your life. They take control of your life. They take control of your children's lives, and it's happening all across this country, and people don't even know it.
I agree with you, Mountain Man. We try to expose that here. We try to shine a light on it. We try to let people know that those are the areas that you can make the most difference, is just cleaning up your own backyard, making a difference in your own yard. Because if you don't, going to the top of the snake's head there in DC is not how we're going to beat these guys. We got to beat them starting in our own backyard. So that's why I created the hashtag backyard battle, because I believe it starts in our backyard. So how do you feel about me dropping the link and we take some questions or live calls or comments?
Oh, that'd be fine.
All right, let me drop the link.
I'm sorry I talk and go on so long. I just, get my motor running, and there it goes.
Oh, you're okay there, Mountain Man. I'm enjoying it. Just thought maybe we might take a couple of questions here or some other comments. Give the audience an opportunity to join in on this. There's a lot of people subscribing to you right now, Mountain Man. So thanks for doing that, folks. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I started a channel. I don't know when I'll start posting things. Might be a couple weeks or whatever. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm a YouTube consumer, and I see things and I want to express myself. And I started talking with Red. I've been on the phone with him before, and before we know it, an hour's gone by, and he's going, "Oh man, you should have done this on the air." And I said, well, I guess, I'll be a guest on your show, or whatever. And we go from there. But I was raised in a conservative family, and my father had a lot of insight into human nature, and also he read the Word quite a bit, and he could see it coming. He could see it coming. When you have government offices that are 10 times better than your best performing business, private business, there's something wrong. They all want to be officials, not servants.
Correct. They all want to rule. They don't want to serve. They want to rule. All right, we got our first caller here, Mountain Man. Let's bring him in. This is my brother here, John E.
Hey, bro.
Hey, Mountain Man, I'll tell you what, it's very insightful. We share a large volume of, I guess, belief in the exactly what's happening and stepping outside of the media narrative. I want to offer to you, and Mike, if you could, post for Mountain Man. I have a website, Mountain Man, that I've operated for a few years. And my latest blog post as of 2 hours ago is titled Control Media, Feeding Pro-World Order Narrative.
Exactly.
Yes, sir. And I'd like, man, if you get a chance to go through it and cruise through it and read it, and then, boy, I'd really like to get your feedback on if I missed anything. And because that's what we're watching, in the very first sentence in the blog. Do you feel that hot Ukraine running down your back as media tells you it's raining?
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
That's like, the Ukrainian people have been feeling it for years. I tell you, they had 2 videos of older people supposedly dressing down Russian soldiers. One of them was an older guy under a bridge. I don't know if you saw it or not. Looked to me like he was wearing pink pants. And he was saying, what are you all doing here? But he seemed about half drunk to me, and he was giving a good degree of hell. But he said, are you all so rich that you come to, take from us? Those are poor people, and they don't have, it's not like Putin's trying to take over the Taj Mahal.
No, and Mountain Man, there's the reality, because I do a lot of deep dives on anything I post a blog about. And when you go in, and one of the first links I put in that blog post was just a simple Wikipedia for the history of the frickin' Ukraine. It's been a warring nation of people and been controlled by so many different people that it's amazing. But when you go back to the foundation and the Khazarians, well, then you understand the corrupt nature of some of the so-called Jewish people that control and run the Ukraine. And the latest statistics you can get are 43.7 million people. The United States over the last year and a half has sent $2.7 billion. That's $62 million per citizen. But when you look at the population, the people that are running to get on trains to get the hell out, when you look at those people, that doesn't look like millionaires to me. So where's the money? And and I know, and I lay case and lay the proof behind everything that was, any accusation made against Nancy P. and Mitt and the whole crew. And you've got to do a deep dive to find that what they have done is they set their children on the board of shell companies here in the USA that are energy companies, but then they get contracts from the Ukraine. And then you go to Russia, and what they're paying in a transfer tax. Look, Louisiana does that. Louisiana gets so many pennies for every cubic foot of gas and oil we ship through transit lines out of Louisiana. Well, the Ukraine is killing Russia with taxation. And who formulated the tax plan? Mr. P, his son, and all of these people inside of the U.S. political system have designed what they want to be able to allow Putin to keep from his oil and his gas as it's transferred through Ukraine. That is Putin's Putin has been adamant. He has spoken multiple times to the United Nations in uncertain terms. I will not allow NATO or America to arm the Ukrainian people on my border. And what did we do? Somebody's, when you bring up biolabs, there's all kind of misinformation and disinformation, sure enough, that's out there. But when you look at where it's coming from, it is the narrative of the mainstream media, because if you go look at DOD contracts for bioweapons laboratories in Ukraine, you will find 11 funded DOD funding. That's American taxpayer dollars funded biolabs in the Ukraine.
Well, I tell you, have you ever seen BCP, Black Conservative Patriot?
Yep.
Yes.
Now he's a survivor on YouTube. He hadn't been excoriated or taken down. I think he got a strike and straightened it out. But he did a very good, and I refer to them as pharma institutes rather than use the LAB word because the sniffers get you. But if you go back maybe 3 shows on BCP, he actually has the verbiage on how they use what I call scientific pig Latin to describe things, awful things, in terms that seem intelligent and harmless. I call it scientific pig Latin. You got medical pig Latin. If you tell it in plain English, it's awful. So BCP is a good one to look at about what you're talking about, the 11 sites you're talking about, as to what they really are. And I didn't get into that off the bat because, it's such a subject that we all know causes problems as far as channel security. But as I said, getting into that, I refer to them as pharma institutes of medicine or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what is interesting tonight. I'm trying to think of Mark Warner. Yeah, I guess he's a senator, Senator from Virginia, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, he has contacted and reached out to all of the technocrats, the social media outlets, and reached out to every single one of them. And he wants them to limit any conversation involving Russia. Now, what is that about? We're censored for, you can't say anything about the C, the vacations. You can't say anything about the E in November 2020. And now, because they are spinning already inside of the halls of our Congress, that anyone that sees past the media narrative and speaks contrary to what they want as acceptable speech, that they'll start removing your channels. Be cautious, Brother Mike.
Yeah.
Well,
it's coming.
Yeah. That's why I talk sometimes, in the way that I do, with a lot of and so in between. So, you have to be careful. But at the same time, we have to let our friends know, because I want to have a country where I'm friends with my neighbors.
Yes.
They're not angry at me or think that we overthrew a government unfairly, or that the people that think the way we do are the problem instead of the other way around.
Well, and Mountain Man, there's a reality. The people of Ukraine are just people, just like the people in this nation, the people in Russia. And we all have the same desires. We want to live life as peaceful as we can. We want to raise our children and have some amount of prosperity to where we've got a roof over our head and food on the table. And hopefully we could educate our children to where they would have a better existence than we do. And I think that that's true of every nation on the face of the earth. And that's what this narrative is about. That's what this war is about. We as a world stood up against the C narrative. We pushed back. We did the research necessary to debunk and prove the lies of the fact that the vacation was nothing other than a gene therapy. And we've proven that. We've proven it. We've verified it. We've documented it using their own information against them. So now, when they were have been forced around the planet, when people stood up and say no more, and not a request for anything but other than freedom, to free us from the tyrannical governments that are in place on this planet. So when all that fell apart there with Mr. Justin Trudeau in Canada in his hellish response to people seeking freedom, his totalitarian exercise in injustice, when that happened, that pushed this narrative. This narrative was going to come anyway, but this, and I spell this out in really simple terms in the blog post. This is about the collapse of the world economy. When you see what they're doing related to fiat currency, and you see they're attacking Russia with the SWIFT system, which then in turn is going to unleash a beast that they're stupid. When you do that and you use SWIFT so that Russia cannot transfer or have anything to do with monetary transfers in the world system, you're going to alienate the Chinese. Not a very good move.
Well, I can tell you, as far as China, I was going to touch on that a little bit.
Go ahead.
They had
Let me jump in here for just a second, because I received a text and I just want to let everybody in chat know. I guess there's possibility that they're taking channels down for using the word BIO lab.
right.
So just letting everybody in chat know. The mods will probably let you guys know that too. Yeah, I wouldn't use that word BIO lab. I wouldn't put it in chat.
That's why I say Pharma Institute.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway,
Well,
go ahead there, Mountain Man.
I hate I did that to you, brother.
It's all good.
I can't keep up with their censorship.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, you have to kind of think like they do. Know thine enemy. You have to be as innocent as a lamb and as sharp as a serpent's tooth, so to speak.
Yeah.
So with China, they can't come out full blast against Russia. That's why they voted to not hear any kind of sanctions against Russia. They vetoed it in the UN because they have veto power, because they want to do the same thing with Taiwan. So how would that look?
Yeah.
If they excoriate Putin, but then go to do the same thing with Taiwan. So they're licking their chops over this. The bottom line is everything we're saying is true, but the thing that is hard to gently bring to light to our friends and our neighbors and our relatives, our loved ones, is what's on those Georgia. They're in Georgia, and you have a guide, and then they're made of stone.
Mm-hmm.
And you read what's on the stone that, to take a Georgia guide to, you know what I'm saying?
You're getting pretty good at this. You're getting pretty good at this.
You read what's on there and you see what they want. They have not made a secret of it. They've publicly proclaimed it. They've even spoken openly at the UN about it. And they use scientific pig Latin to say that the reducing the population is best for the earth. Now, reducing the population, let me see. That's scientific pig Latin for doing what to the population? Because how do you reduce them? You ship them off to another galaxy. The only way I know to reduce the population is what's called the EINTERDICT, STAZGRUPPN. Einstadtgruppen. Look that one up. That's how you reduce the population. And that is a brutal fact of life. And anybody that tells me I'm crazy, anybody that tells me I don't know what I'm talking about, they can look up what's called the Wannsee Conference, WANNSEE, the Wannsee Conference, which was formal government approval of a strategy to reduce the population. And that was in my mother's lifetime. So nobody's going to tell me today there aren't people of the Einstadtgruppen, and there aren't people of the same mind as the Wannsee Conference. And that's historical fact. And there's photos to prove it. And there's mass graves to prove it. So there's only one way I know to reduce the population. And I don't care how they say it, how they phrase it in their medical pig Latin or their social pig Latin or anything else. They're talking about doing away with humanity. And I tell people who are new to the program, who think things are going great, and we should all go along to get along, say, wait a minute. I want you to do one thing. I want you to listen to JFK's Secret Society speech. When he said he was going to spread a certain agency that begins with a C, ends with an A, and has an I in the middle, he's going to take that agency and smash it to 1,000 pieces and spread it to the wind. And then after you listen to that speech, I want you to watch what happened to that man a couple of weeks later in Dealey Plaza. There's a film called the Zapruder film. You watch what happened to that man, and then you'll know what we're up against. And when you're finished watching that and watching Little John salute, when you're finished doing that, you go read those Georgia things that I discussed. And then you'll know what we're up against.
Well, I got two opinions on how they could do that. One would be camps, but I think the way that they're really doing it is through vacations, and I just think that that's just something I'm not willing to experiment with. And again, it's everybody's right. John and I have a podcast that we do on LWN Podcast on Podbean, and we talk about this exact thing. We talk about how we're fighting for the freedom of choice. So you can choose to do it if you want, but I just don't want to be forced to do it. And I think population control is definitely something on their agenda and has been for quite some time. And I think if you really knew the truth about the Green New Deal, you would probably find in the Green New Deal that means population control as well. Because how can you have a nice green planet if there's still 8 billion people on it?
Well, as far as people's choice, there were a lot of people who said, oh, good, I get to take a shower. And they went through those doors and they never came out.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a shower. They were showered all right. But it was like on beat.
They're teaching our children now that didn't happen, and that didn't happen that way. They're really trying to change history, and it's unfortunate. Well,
to some degree, when people are standing there agog that their school board, as I've said before, has a guy sitting on the school board dressed like Carmen Miranda that has rights over and power over their children, and they wonder why little Johnny wants to come home. When he comes home, he says he wants to change his genitalia. At some point, you got to look at parents and say, whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? But then again, you get put in a hamster wheel system where the wife's got to work, the husband's got to work. You've been trained to trust the people in positions of authority, positions of public trust. Well, you found out that you put your trust in the wrong ones as to what your children are bringing home. I remember in the mid '90s, late '90s. I'll call her my step niece, was little thing back then, but she's 7, 8 years old. I'm not going to have children. Why? Because the world's going to end. You had Al Gore getting paid millions and millions of dollars by local school boards all over the country to show his film, Earth in the Balance. He made millions off of that. And we only had 10 years to go, don't you know? And that was it, because Earth has a fever. The Earth has a fever, and we're all going to die. And he was the biggest boogeyman of the 90s and terrified our children. So there were 2 terror operations, boogeyman operations. We know what the one is now that they're doing to our kids, but in the 90s, it was that. Yeah. It was global warming, which they artfully changed to climate change instead of global warming.
What do you think there, Brother John?
Brother John.
You're muted, brother.
Hope I didn't make him go to sleep.
No, he was trying to talk. It was just muted. You there, John? His signal's pretty weak. I know he's always got something good to add. He'll hop out and hop back in. There he is. Let's give him another try. Go ahead, John. Nope. No sound. I don't know what's going on. Love the technicals. Go ahead there, Mountain Man. Finish your thought.
Well, I'll tell you one thing a lot of people didn't notice. I had a friend who was a dear, dear friend of mine, and he passed away at the age of 96. And I knew him since he was at the age of 59, and he was quite a bit older than me. But I made friends with older people because they knew so damn much. Mm-hmm. And from older friends, I got more of an education that you could ever buy. And he had served on local positions before. He was very well known, a local politician. And as he got older, he didn't run anymore, didn't deal with it. But I remember the Planning Commission, they came out with a rule. You will notice that your local governments run by the same template as other local governments, and it's been referred to as the governor's dashboard. There's been other terms for it too, but it makes things uniform. And part of the thing that they started requiring was if you were going to be appointed to the Planning Commission, which made decisions about whether you can put in a subdivision or build a restaurant or a piece of ground or whatever you want to do, you had to go to the Planning Commission and see if it fit in with the overall plan of the county or town that you're applying in. Well, they made it a requirement that before you get appointed, you had to go through a class. And my friend said, I've been to 2 world fairs and a rodeo, and I've never seen, if you're a citizen, you can sit on a planning commission. You can use your own common sense, your own judgment. You don't need to be indoctrinated by some class to sit on a planning commission. And he's very right, because what they were doing, they were making that class to where you are to think in an automatic way of a Green New Deal, of a I'll say it, communist, where you are leaning more toward helping others, being a do-gooder, preserving the grass, and all this stuff besides letting somebody do what the hell they want with their own property. It was indoctrination, and he was right. And it's happening in everybody's little towns and everybody's little counties, just as I described earlier. The use it or lose it money, all it was doing was feathering a nest for people who would have no purpose, no sense of importance in life, no accomplishments, except to become one of the paid useful idiot foot soldiers that gets indoctrinated into that kind of a system. And if they want to keep that, if they want to keep that status, if they want to keep that office they sit in for free, if they want to keep the walking around with their chest thrown out, I am a member of whatever government. I'm an official. If they want to keep that, they'll dance to their tune.
Yeah.
They're one of the beautiful people now, and we're just one of the peonies.
You know,
go ahead, John.
The reality of that is that started in 1990 with the Rio conference through the United Nations. And if you go to every county commission, there will be a county planning director, or whatever the name and the title they've give this unelected bureaucrat.
Right.
And every one of them are trained at the same location in Denver, Colorado. And then they come back and they exercise sustainable development.
Yeah.
Your county commissioners will have it written, and they will pass the policies and implement the policies without any will of the people. And it is all by design for the new world.
Yeah, odor.
Yeah. There you go. You know
New
what?
world odor.
I wanted to say something earlier, and I don't know what happened. But at any rate, Mountain Man, you need to get on the Podbeam app.
Yep.
And get on that Podbean app and I would, man, you talk about that we could have one uncensored conversation with Brother Mike, and the three of us get on there and break this down for the listeners, where we don't have to worry about censorship and control, because you're a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge, and boy, I'll tell you what, I'm just glad to meet you, brother.
Yeah, I know Denise is listening right now. She heard you say that, John. So, Mountain Man, I'm sure Denise will reach out to you. She's laughing. She'll call or email you, and she'll get something scheduled for Podbean for you and me and Big John there. It'd be a pleasure to have you over on Podbean, as long as my mic is working. It didn't work so hot today.
you son of a gun. Mine neither.
Okay, guys. Well, it was fun. I don't like going over to the chats because it messes things up sometimes. My mic will cut off, or I don't want to drop off. Like I said, I'm not used to this. I know it's fairly simple, but I'm just have a phone, and be like, what in the world, So but I appreciate everybody in the chats, and I'll try to go to them here, because the other system we use, me and Red used, I click over to the chat and drop off for some reason. So I'll just leave it be. Okay. What about
let's just go ahead and wrap it up with final thoughts from you two gentlemen then, and I'll be glad to walk you through over the phone Podbean, because you just go through your phone. It's pretty simple. I send you the link just like we did here. You click
I see
on
Red.
it,
Red's in the
come
chat.
right in. Yeah, Red's in the chat tonight. He's been pumping you all night long with little things that he's been saying. So he's been having fun.
Oh, Red, I'm sorry, Red. I didn't. You know why? You heard me. Why I didn't feel comfortable switching to the chats.
Yeah.
If I don't have my spectacles on, I can't read it anyway.
I'll go with John E first for final thought, and then I'll let you have your final thought there, Mountain Man.
Well, I'm going to tell you, this has been an amazing conversation. Mountain Man has shared a wealth of knowledge and intelligence with all of our family. And we are a family, Mountain Man. And it's just like you described it, as, going to your neighbor and being inside your community and sharing what you know to be so, and asking sometimes questions that compel our neighbors to seek an answer. And boy, it's great to meet you. And I really look forward to when we can have a conversation on Podbean and get all the listeners over there to where we can speak freely without censorship. And God bless your effort. And God bless what you're doing for this nation. Because trust me, patriots have got to stand up in this time. We have been put here, and we're here by God's appointment for a reason.
Amen.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I want to say that the reason I mentioned Einstein-Gruppen specifically, I know there's other methods or other means, but the history of that group began in Poland and Ukraine.
Yes, sir.
That is where they were most active. And if you mention that word to a Ukrainian, they will know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And there are people whose grandparents and parents were children during that time, and adults. Very few adults survived to this point. But I'm sure people in teenage years and their formative years were living when that happened in their and on their land. And if you got the stomach for it, read about it. If you want to pull up the Nuremberg trials, they will have transcripts of how people tried to defend themselves and to what degree they participated, and how many souls and how many children, how many people never made it past that grab of the arm where they just grabbed them and drug them off.
Mm-hmm.
And there were millions. And it wasn't just Jewish people, and it was any untermenschen. Look that word up. Anybody they deemed that was not worth the glory of life, that they decided was not worthy of it. And that's what we're dealing with today. And people don't think it can happen again. People don't think it's happening right now. Well, you don't think it's happening right now? I don't want to be crude, but go look in the dumpster behind a Planned Parenthood and tell me what's happening right now to human beings.
Amen.
Yep. Thank you for your final thought there, Mountain Man, and it's a pleasure meeting you, having you on the show. Thanks for jumping up here, Johnny. Here's my final thought. It's important for all of us as patriots, Americans, God-fearing, God-loving people to have a broad network of people and individuals, men and women, who bring different views to the conversation and see things through a different light. I think it's very educational to be able to have these type of conversations and allow people to have a voice, allow them to be able to put out what they're seeing, what they're feeling. And so I enjoy these type of conversations because it's just, it's enlightening. I feel like I've made a new friend with Mountain Man. Thank you, Red, for sending them our way. And I look forward to more conversations with you, Mountain Man.
Well, we certainly will, because this, I want to tell people that I've said it before. It ain't over. We've got a march ahead of us, and we got to stay united, and we can't let ourselves be disappointed when things don't go exactly the way we want or when they want.
Correct.
Exactly.
It'll happen when it happens. And we just got to take the high road and stay calm and try to get our friends to understand, and in a gentle way. You don't want mass panic, but the bottom line is there are people who don't view life the way we do and don't value others the way we do. Mm-hmm. And they don't, and to quote a famous man, they don't have your good in mind.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. All right. Well, that's a wrap for tonight, folks. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow evening, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain Time. I'm still on the road with Shane. He's feeling a little bit better. I'm going to go hang out with him as soon as I get off of here and try to get some supper in. So thanks for joining us tonight, folks. We'll be back to our regular schedule next week when I get home. So I'll be back to devotions and headline hits and all that stuff starting Monday morning. So I know a lot of you are missing that. I just don't have enough time to do it while I'm on the road. So I'm just hanging out with Shane and just being here for him. So thanks for all your support. Love you all. Have a great evening. God bless. And we will see you tomorrow night.
All righty.
Hoping for a sincere performance, but open to finding the moment, to finding out where I'm headed now. Looking for a sign of disaster, so I can make it there faster. I'm weighing the consequences out. I can see in all directions. It's all open to interpretation, but I see colors that are breaking from the other side, the other side. When I make mountains out of summer trails, when I buckle under all the details, I'll keep going till I make it to the other side, the other side. Can you tell me the secret of how you can take it or leave it? How you can blend in with the crowd? I'm so scared, so damn afraid to look. I'm so sick of talking. I'm wearing the words out, words out. I can see in all directions. It's all open to interpretation, but I see colors that are breaking from the other side, the other side. When I make mountains out of summer trails, when I buckle under all the details, I'll keep going till I make it to the other side, the other side. When it feels like everyone's out to get me, I see the river on the bank.